right, good evening, everyone. Glad you're here with us tonight. Glad you're part of this community, or maybe you're joining us throughout the week, so it's actually Wednesday, maybe. Glad you're part of the community. All right, y'all, just to remind you, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction while creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there's always one thing we don't do in this community. You can shout it out on the count of 3. If you're new with us, you're going to learn it very quickly. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. We don't do shame. Carrie's going to tell you things we do.
I do want to say thank you to everyone who joined us before this service. We had our home team gathering, and so if everyone who is wearing a volunteer lanyard or someone who was at that gathering, if you would mind raising your hand just to see these beautiful individuals.
All right, y'all.
So thank you to everyone, and if you are still interested, please come and see me or one of them who are wearing the lanyard. Just after, and if tonight's your first night, welcome. We're glad that you're here. Right after service, come find one of those volunteers or Ryan and I, and we will get you connected with a welcome bag. Inside that welcome bag, you'll find some fresh roasted Wagon coffee from the extraordinary Tami Canaday, who we will hear so much more from tonight, which I'm very excited. Ooh. It's an exciting night for us, as well as some free swag and a meeting schedule. If you flip that meeting schedule over, you'll see a QR code. If you scan that QR code, you'll find all of the different ways to get connected with us here. You can download our app there. You can find a live meeting schedule there, because we constantly are adding meetings. And you can also sign up for our newsletter, so you'll find out who the guest storyteller is each week, and then what events we have going on. For example, this one is majorly important, friends, so pay attention. If you hear nothing else that I say tonight, listen to this. So next Saturday, there is no Saturday service, no 5 p.m. service, no 7 p.m. service. The building will be open, but the cafe will be closed, and no staff will be on site because it is actually 4th of July on that Saturday. So be safe, make good choices, and if you come to a meeting, the building is still here, but we ourselves are not here.
Yes, we do 2 rest weeks each year, one in the summer and then one the week after Christmas. Those are rest weeks for staff and volunteers, very important weeks.
And did you want to tell them what we did this week?
Oh, this week we had our Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we had our staff and board retreat up near, actually get this, it's a small town called Coaldale, Colorado. Anyone been to Coaldale? That's right outside of Salida, a beautiful place. We did some rafting, we did some fly fishing, we did some
s'more eating,
some cookie. I mean, we just had a great time together. So it was a good week.
It was a very good week.
And it's good to be home.
Yep, I liked my
Carrie
shower.
loves camping.
I'm a city girl, but that's all I got for you.
Thank you, Carrie. All right, the way we get started here on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We start with the good, we lift up the good. Maybe you're here and you're celebrating a sober anniversary or birthday or whatever the new thing in your life or recovery is, new jobs, new homes, new babies, new whatever. We celebrate it all here. We take 3 minutes for this. If you're online, drop your celebrations in the Facebook comments or the YouTube comments. We'll join with you there. For those of you in-house, you just got to raise up your hand. Colin has a mic on this side. Teresa has a mic on this side. And this 3 minutes is yours.
I'm Jerome, and I'm here to celebrate. We had a pet birthday this past week. Our puppy turned 1.
Puppy turned 1.
I know. I think, there's a lot of people who advocate for their pets in here. I'm one of those.
So we'll celebrate that, Jerome. Number 1, puppy.
Hello, my name is Jill, and I am celebrating the birth of my first grandson. So my son and his wife had a baby yesterday.
All right, Grandma Jill, congratulations.
I'm Caitlin. I'm new here, and I just graduated out of my IOP program this past Thursday, and I just turned 40.
All right, Caitlin, happy birthday. Glad you're here. Welcome. That's a good way to enter into the 40s.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and I would like to celebrate that tomorrow. I used to go to a lot of raves. I used to dance as a go-go dancer, but being in recovery, I don't get to do that as much. But tomorrow, I get to dance at Pride Fest on stage, and I'm very excited about that.
All right, give it up for dancing. Go-go dancing.
Hey friends, this is Carrie. I want every single person in this building, when they leave here and they go into the cafe, it is Freddie's birthday tomorrow. So give so much love to Freddie when you see them. There's our staff and our volunteers that help run that cafe. So can we just say happy birthday to Freddie?
Happy birthday, Freddie.
So I'm Nicole. I start a new job this Monday, and I haven't been working in a couple of years, so it's exciting.
All right, we'll celebrate that. Way to go.
My name's Jen, and on the 8th I'll have 6 months.
6 months, Jen. Way to go. Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Shiloh, and in 2 weeks, me and Poppy get to go to the Free Chicago.
Yes, we will be there in 2 weeks. Free Chicago. We'll celebrate that.
My name's Brian. I'm celebrating a year.
Brian, where's Brian? All right, congratulations, Brian. All the way in the back, yes. Very cool.
I'm Steven, alcoholic, and I'm coming up on 2 years sobriety, and I just got a new sponsor.
All right, Steven, we'll celebrate it, dude. Glad you're here. Thank you, Colin and Teresa. Colin, you want to join me up here a minute? Read some. I'm giving Tami a little break because she's our guest storyteller. So she's going to be up here a lot tonight. So, ooh. We made that awkward, didn't we?
A lot of us did.
All right, you want to join our online community. You want to read the first one?
Sure. Christy, although my car was totaled, happy to be safe and uninjured. Thank you, Lord, for watching over me.
Yeah, we'll celebrate that, Christy. Sorry for the car, but glad you're okay. Pamela says, celebration/heartache combo. My son is still homeless in San Francisco. He got jumped in a park, and I got a call from a hospital. He's okay. First time I got to talk to him in over a month. He's alive, so I'll celebrate that. And we will celebrate that with you, too. And prayers for him. And you.
Brianne, hi. Tomorrow is my 33rd birthday.
All right.
All right. I'm at home making myself cookies while listening to y'all.
All right, well, welcome, Brianne, and happy birthday to you. Enjoy the cookies. Melanie says, new here, my name is, it's not Melanie, that's just the handle. New here, my name is James. Welcome, James. Just got off a bender trying to stay strong. Good for you for being here, James. Glad you're joining us tonight.
Evan, thanks. I thought it was late. About 98 days sober today and gonna have Wagon Coffee. Yeah, tomorrow morning in Illinois.
All right, Evan, enjoy that coffee, man. And happy 98 days. Thank you, Colin and Teresa, for being mic passers tonight. All right, y'all, we're in the middle of this series. We're doing a June and July series. We're calling this God Shots. And tonight, the title is Relationship Status, it's complicated. Yeah, does your relationship with God ever feel just really complicated? So several years ago, I sat in my office with a grown man, and he was in tears, and he was completely broken as he went in to tell me all about some of the things that he had done and the decisions that he made years ago. And some of these decisions that he made had some dreadful consequences. People were hurt. Relationships were damaged beyond repair. And he did his best to make amends to those he had harmed. He even owned all of his wrongdoings, all of them. And I can tell you, I believe he was a changed man. But he also says to me, he says, Ryan, I will never be able to forgive myself. I will never be able to forgive myself. And any good that came into his life, he would just kind of push it to the side because he felt unworthy. And his past told him that what he needed to do was just give himself more and more and more self-punishment. Many of you here, you have a past. You said some things or you did some things, and these things still haunt you. And not being able to forgive yourself, it has created a really complicated relationship with God. And you might even say, well, you're in recovery. And you hear people talk all the time about these spiritual experiences. You hear them talk about God or higher power, but a part of you wonders, could I ever really have a faith like that? And you're just not really sure where you stand with all the God stuff. You're not sure if you're standing with God. And for some of you, I'm well aware, it is not your past, the past things that you've done, but it's some of the past things that were done to you. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard in this community, and you all hear these stories too in this community. The stories of your religious or church trauma. How some of you were told you don't belong when it comes to God. I hear these stories all the time, and I know even for some of you to be here at Free tonight, you still have this raised suspicion, and you're just not exactly sure. And I also know in this community that many of you have experienced abuse of all kinds. And you can't help but wonder, if there is a loving God, why would this God allow these things to happen, and you're just not really sure about your standing with God? In fact, if I were to ask you, tell me about your relationship with God, for some of you, you would tell me, well, it's very complicated. And for some of you still, it has nothing to do with your past, but it has everything to do with your present. Because you, at one time in your life, you thought you had all the answers when it came to the God stuff. You had answers, and these answers were handed to you as a child. You thought you had it. The problem is, you grew up. You grew. You had some experiences. You saw more. You started to experience more things, and things started expanding in your life. The whole God project started expanding, and maybe for you this came in a classroom, or maybe it came through some books that you were reading or conversations with other people. And maybe you came to see that the God that was handed you as a child, it was actually a God that was quite small, quite limited. And now God is bigger. The whole thing is bigger, but a piece of you still wonders, is your God okay with that? Do you know, I had this experience when I came into recovery. And for me, probably like you, it wasn't easy. January 7th, many of you know this story. January 7th, that's my sobriety date, 2013. So January 6th, 2013, that was my last drink. Haven't had a drink or other mind-altering substances since then. And it was January 7th when Tami, my wife, came down the stairs, an empty bottle of vodka, tears coming down her face, 9 months pregnant with our second, saying, Ryan, what are we going to do? And I thought I had the perfect plan in place because I heard her concern. And I said, I know exactly what I'm going to do. You're right, honey, I need to do something, and I'm going to call our therapist, a therapist we worked with in the past. Because in my mind, I could work this out with just one other person, then no one would know. 9 a.m. that morning, I called Sue. It goes to her voicemail. I said, Sue, this is Ryan. I think I might have a problem with alcohol. I can't really stop, and it's taking everything from me, the things that I love, and I would love to set up a meeting with you. And do you know what? She immediately calls me back, and she says, Ryan, I'm so glad to hear from you. She says, I would love to meet with you, and I'm sorry you're going through this. And I thought, great, let's schedule a meeting. And she says, but before I meet with you, you need to be involved in a support group. And I said, a support group, like what? She says, well, have you ever heard of Alcoholics Anonymous? And so I hang up the phone, and later that morning, I called Tony. Tony was one of the few people I knew in this crazy program called AA, a group of people I never wanted to be associated with. And I called Tony, and I said, Tony, I think I have a problem. I can't stop drinking, and it's taking everything from me. And here's what was so strange to me. Tony had this sense of urgency that I did not understand. In fact, he called Terry, and he calls me back, and he says, me and Terry want to meet with you today. And I thought, why is this so urgent? What I came to understand is because I thought we could get the phones out and pencil in a date on the calendar for next week. They knew something about my alcoholism that I did not know. They knew, I think, that there's a good chance if Ryan goes to bed tonight and we don't meet, if he goes to bed, he's going to wake up tomorrow morning the same way he did 1,000 other days, and he's going to wake up and he's going to say this, I got this. I'm good. I just need to try harder. I need some more discipline in my life. Oh, that moment of desperation yesterday, that was just a fluke thing. I just got to try harder. Do you know they then took me to a 6:45 a.m. meeting, and I was serving as a pastor at this church, and these meetings would happen downstairs with all these alcoholics. And this weird thing was happening because I was encountering and hearing from and befriending a lot of people who weren't like me, but they were so much like me. And what was so fascinating to me is, man, they would talk about these spiritual experiences. They would talk about God or higher power, and many of them didn't even identify as Christian. And this was mind-blowing to me. They would talk about God as if their lives depended on it, and I didn't know what that was about when I was a pastor. What do you mean your lives depend on this? And what I saw was their lives were good. They actually had something compelling about the way they lived, and they served other people. They reached out to people who were struggling, and I can tell you that actually saved my life in looking back. And what I saw was I was believing the things that I saw. And God was actually becoming so much bigger. The whole spiritual project was so much bigger, but I had this dilemma. And let me go. That's what dry mouth will do to you. The dilemma was this. But God, I've got to go back upstairs. And God, are you okay with this? It was a very scary time in my life because my relationship with God was very fuzzy. And what happened to my box that I built, and everything was so uncomfortable. And if you were to ask me about my relationship with God, I would tell you at the time, it was very complicated. And God, are you okay with this? These people don't believe exactly what I believe. And the whole thing's bigger, and are you okay with this? Like, are you ever plagued with that question that when it comes to you and God, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? And if your relationship with God is a bit complicated, I want you to know you're not alone. You belong here. In fact, I would even tell you this community was created for you. Do you know one of my favorite stories in Scripture comes from the Old Testament, or what's called the Hebrew Bible. And it comes from this book called 2 Kings. I love this story. In this 5th chapter of 2 Kings, you get a story about a man named Naaman. In fact, here's how the story starts. And this story has everything to do with Naaman having a very complicated relationship with God and what happens with it all. Check it out. Here's how the story starts. Naaman, a general for the king of Aram, was a great man and highly regarded by his master. This man was a mighty warrior, but he had a skin disease. Now, why would the storyteller give us this detail? So here's this man, he's very powerful, influential, very wealthy. He's a commander in the army of Aram, and he has a skin disease. Why is this important? Well, if you had a skin disease in the ancient world, in that time and in that day, it was thought that you had committed some great sin, or maybe someone in your family committed a great sin, and this was the God's way of getting you back. If you had a skin disease, you were marginalized, you were ostracized in community, people didn't want to be around you. Now, Naaman hears from this young Jewish slave girl, and there's a whole story there. We could do a whole series on that. In fact, we could spend many weeks on this story, but I'm just going to summarize it for you. He hears from this young Jewish slave girl. She says to him, look, if you go back to my homeland in Israel, you can talk to one of the prophets there, and you can get healed. Naaman says, really? She says, really? So Naaman, well, he goes to the king of Aram, his boss. And he says, listen, boss, I'm going to need a few days off because here's the deal. I just heard that if I go into Israel and speak to one of the prophets, I can be healed of this skin disease. What do you think? Can I get the time off? He says, yeah. He says, that sounds great. He says, in fact, I'll even write you a letter of recommendation, like a reference letter. When you get to Israel, you can present it to the king. So Naaman sets out for Israel, this long journey, and Naaman is prepared to pay for his healing. He has massive amounts of gold and silver and horses and chariots, and his soldiers are behind him. And he arrives into Israel, and he presents this letter to the king. And the king reads this letter out loud, the king of Israel, and he's getting angry. He's frustrated. And he's so frustrated, he starts tearing his clothes, which is a sign of grief. And he says to Naaman, you're trying to pick a fight with me? You're trying to start a battle with me? And he kicks Naaman out. Now, I want to introduce you to one other character in the story. His name is Elisha. Elisha is described as a man of God. He's a prophet living in Israel. Elisha hears what the king has just done. And he says to the king in Israel, he says, King, dude, you got to get your act together here, man. Don't you remember who we are and what we're about? We welcome in the strangers. We welcome the foreigners. We do not kick them out. We welcome them in. Naaman, you got to get your act together. You tell Naaman to come to me. So Naaman goes to Elisha. And Elisha says to Naaman, he says, look, I understand you have this skin disease. And I want you to go into the Jordan River and wash 7 times. And Naaman says, that's stupid. Why would I ever do that? I could have, man, if it was going to be that simple, I could have just done it at home and gotten in my own hometown river. And why would I do that? And his servants are saying to him, Naaman, stop being stupid, man. Just get in the river. You have nothing to lose here. Just jump in the river. So Naaman gets into the river 7 times. And the text tells us that on the 7th time when he comes up, his skin is completely restored to that of a young child. He's been made clean. And now he is convinced that God has healed him. And now he wants to pay Elijah. He wants to repay Elijah for this great act of healing. He says to Elisha, the prophet, he says, now I know for certain there are no other gods but this God. Because you have to understand they had localized deities, different gods for different lands, different regions. There are no other gods except for this God, and how can I ever repay you? And Elijah says, no, you don't owe me anything. Healing is free. Some of you know this, your healing is free. And so Naaman says to Elijah, fine, if you won't take anything, can I at least have 2 mule loads of earth? And you're like, what in the heck is he talking about? 2 mule loads of earth? Well, it's a fancy way of saying you can walk into Home Depot and say this, can I get some dirt? Why would Naaman want some dirt from Israel? Because he wants to take that dirt and go back home and build an altar because he's just had this profound experience and he wants to express gratitude to this God. Elijah says, fine, take the dirt. But before Naaman leaves, he has just one more question for Elisha. He's got to go back home and back to work. But may the Lord, the one that I just encountered here, may the Lord forgive your servant for this one thing. When my master comes into Ramon's temple tomorrow morning to bow down there and is leaning on my arm, I must also bow down in Ramon's temple. When I bow down in Ramon's temple, may the Lord forgive your servant for doing that. Do you see what Naaman is saying? He's saying to Elisha, I've just had this profound healing experience with this God that I know to be true, but here's the thing, Elisha, hear me, I've got to go back home tonight, and that means tomorrow morning I got to get up and go to work. And when I go to work, the workday starts the same way each and every day. Me and my boss, the king of Aram, we walk into the god Ramon's temple, and when he is leaning on my arm and he bows down to Ramon, well, you have to understand, Elijah, I have to bow down too. Like if I don't do it, it's my life, it's off with my head. And Elisha, will this God that I've just encountered, will this God forgive me for that? But it's more than just about forgiveness, isn't it? It's another way of asking Elisha, this God that I've encountered in this land, will this God go with me even to that place? Can you imagine how Elisha might have responded? Come on, Naaman. Dude, you're weak. You need to get some moral fortitude. You need a spine here, dude. Stand for something or fall from everything. Choose this day whom you will serve. But Elisha doesn't do guilt and shame. Thank God. And he doesn't just give answers. He gives a very simple blessing. Elisha said to him, go in peace. Go in peace. Peace is that Hebrew word, shalom, and it means healing, wholeness, completeness, well-being. Wherever you go, God is going with you. The peace and the blessing of the divine rests upon you. Go in peace. You see, some of you have very complicated relationships with God. And I would ask you, who are the Elishas in your midst? Who are the Elishas in your life who give you this blessing and it has a way of allowing you to move forward? They're the ones that say to you, go in peace. You see, when Elisha said to Naaman, go in peace, it was Elijah saying, God goes with you everywhere. God goes with you in all of it, even when it's really complicated, even when the answers aren't certain, even when you look back and you see a really painful and ugly past, even when you are scared to death of what the future holds, go in peace. Do you see how powerful that blessing is? And I'll close with this. Several years ago, I took a class in seminary, and the professor, his name was Reverend Dr. Vincent Harding. He was an African-American pastor and professor. He died in 2014, but he was best known for his work alongside the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I walked into the first day of class, and this class was packed full of students, and the way Dr. Harding decided to start was he said, I just want to ask just a few students what you want to do after you graduate seminary. And you know how it is when you don't want to be called on. I'm looking down and I've got my notebook and because I'm writing some very important prayers, and you better not call on me because I'm very busy right now. And he calls on a student and she answers, then he calls on another student and he answers, and I'm very busy. I've got to write these prayers out and don't bother me right now. And then he says, you, young man in the mauve shirt. And I look up, me? Yes, you. He says, tell me, what is it you want to do after you graduate seminary? Well, he didn't know how scary that question was for me. It was absolutely terrifying. I didn't know how to answer that question. Because you got to understand, when I was in seminary at that time, man, that was at the height of my addiction. I could not put down the bottle. It was soon after my brother died of this disease of addiction, and everything I thought I knew about God was turned upside down. All my beliefs were being shaken, and I didn't know what to think anymore. And I was leaving my evangelical faith of my childhood, and I was convinced by this time God does not hate gay people, that being gay is not a sin. I was convinced that God is not sending 2/3 of the world to a fiery place called hell because they didn't believe the same things that I believed, and everything was changing. And I was so frustrated with religion and the church, and how could they do this to me? And I had so many questions about the God that was handed to me, and my relationship with God at this time was very complicated. And the only words that could come out of my mouth to Dr. Harding was just this pure honesty. It's all I had left. I said, I don't know. I used to know what I was doing here, but I'm not sure anymore. And do you know how someone can drop a line on you that you're not even close with, and that line sticks to you forever? That's what happened. He says to me, my brother, the path of confusion often leads to great clarity. And then he went to the next student. And what was he saying to me? Go in peace. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have it all figured out. And today, well, I'm a pastor, and I do have some clarity, but I do not have it all figured out, and it's okay. And do you know what happened in 2012? In 2012, I got appointed to my first full-time gig as a pastor at a local church. And I was there for 6 months before I got sober. And my sponsor, he assured me, he said, Ryan, this is an anonymous program. You don't have to tell anyone about being a drunk pastor, because I know you're scared to death of that, people finding out. This is anonymous. You don't have to tell anyone, which worked for me for a moment. But then I had this thing, this beating in the chest. It wouldn't shut off, and I call it some maybe moral obligation. I felt a moral obligation to share this with my higher-ups. And so I reached out to my DS, my district superintendent. She was my boss at the time, and I said, listen, can we set up a meeting together? 2 days later, we went to lunch. And I sat across the table from Reverend Dr. Melanie Rose. And do you know how it is, like when you're done, like when you just have to be honest, and maybe I was a bit too honest. I said, Melanie, I'm an alcoholic, and I couldn't stop drinking, and it was taking everything from me. And I've lied to you and everyone around me, and I've been lying to myself, and not just for a little while, but for years. And I know I had to write about my DUI on that report that I had to turn into you, and I lied about that too, because the truth is I've driven drunk hundreds of times, and that wasn't just a one-off like I said it was. I'm an alcoholic. And I said, but I am 30 days sober today. And man, just like Naaman, I showed up to that meeting and I was prepared to pay. I didn't have massive amounts of gold and silver because I didn't have 2 nickels to my name at that time, but I had some other things like my martyrdom or my ego, and I was prepared to pay. And I was so certain God was going to shame me. And I know how people are. They just want to give you punishment. Punishment's a good thing. It's going to change you. And do you know what she said to me? She said, thank you so much for sharing this with me. I'm so proud of you. Whew. You mean all that fear I built up? Your response is, I'm so proud of you. Go in peace. Go in peace. Go in peace. Who are those people in your life who've allowed you, who have given you the blessing to keep moving forward? Go in peace. My brothers and sisters, the greatest God shots you will get will not come through answers given to you. They will come through a simple blessing that reminds you to go in peace. And do you trust that this God will go with you everywhere you go? Go in peace. Go in peace. So what I want to invite you to do is, we're we're going to hear a song, and this song is more of a meditation. It's a reflection. It's kind of chanty. I don't even know if chanty is a word, but y'all know what I mean. It's like a chant. And I want to invite you, if you're open to it, just close your eyes and stay completely still. Like, yeah, if you got to get up and go pee, don't, you know. But stay still, stay quiet. This song is by Lindsay Scott. It's called The Way Knows. And just take a moment of peace. There's something healing in that, isn't there? Well, if you're new with us, you should know that each week we have a guest storyteller in the house to join us up in the living room to share some of their story with us. And tonight, I don't know if y'all know her. Her name is Tami Canaday. Tami is my wife. She's the co-founder of Free. We started this thing together. She's also the owner. She started Wagon Coffee. But what I can tell you about Tami, why I invited her to be with me tonight, she has become one of my greatest wisdom teachers. And y'all know, coming out of life of addiction, We didn't always have the best relationship. We didn't always have the best marriage. So when I say today, like, yeah, she's a great wisdom teacher for me, it's not just because she stood beside me through early recovery and all of recovery and addiction, but we now get to do ideas together and do life together, and it's a beautiful thing that I get to share with her. Will you help me welcome my wife, Tami Canaday, into the living room? Now, honey, I don't get to kiss all the guest storytellers on stage here, so that's
kind of weird.
It's kind of weird. I had to make it a little bit awkward.
I think I got ready before you today, and you're copying me.
Did I copy you? I wanted to match.
The mauve, is that what you call it?
Is that what it's called, mauve? It's kind of salmonish. Okay, let's jump into things. Here's what I told Tami, why I wanted Tami to join us tonight. I said, people are always asking, when you talk about I thought it was called the power of threes. She corrected me today and said, it's not the power of threes, it's the three waves. Tami experiences God through what she calls the three waves of affirmation. And I said, you got to tell people about that. People are always asking me about it, and I screw it up when I try to talk about it. So she's here to tell you about the three waves of affirmation, how she experiences God. And let me set it up this way, because this is kind of funny. In 2016, I was away in Africa in a place called Rusinga Island, Kenya. We were doing a trip with Project Humanity, women's empowerment, that sort of thing. And she FaceTimes me one night and says, hey, guess what? I quit my job. You quit your job? She quit her corporate job. We had talked about it before, but that came as a bit of surprise, and I was actually really proud of her for doing it, but it also came with a bit of fear. Tell us about the three waves of affirmation, where all that fits in.
Yeah, so to give some context, because I want to get back to that story, but the context before that is, we had just had Breck. So I had been on my maternity leave. We just had our third kid. We have 4. And there was something that was like stirring in my spirit. We had done some retreats together. There was like change on the horizon. I couldn't pinpoint what that looked like or what that was. I had well over a decade of coffee experience at that time. So I felt like coffee would come on the journey in some way, especially from a storyline that we had kind of dug into to say, where are we heading? What are we doing? What's our story look like? And as I had talked to Ryan through my pregnancy about this, he kept saying, it's your turn. Because I had carried the family through, while I was working at corporate, he was getting his master's. And I'm like, oh, thank you for the permission, which we do need, but I have no idea what that looks like. But I appreciated that so much because Ryan said, I want you to have the same purpose in life where people get up in the morning and they're feeling fulfilled, and you find that thing that's beating inside of you that you want to wake up and get up for. And if that means you find that thing and we have to sell our house and go live in a tiny little white box, so be it. I just want you to be happy and find that thing that gives you life. And so that was from Ryan, my permission to go and do what I felt like I needed to go and explore to do, which was still like, I didn't have a ton of clarity on it. But that was step 1, I think, to start the journey. And so once I had that permission, the first day I went back.
With it.
I went back from my maternity leave, day 1, sat in the parking lot for 15 minutes, said a little prayer, a long prayer, went and gave them my 2-week notice, and then went back to the car, which was morning for me, night for you, because you're in Africa, and told Ryan that I quit. That comes with some history too. So not so easy. If anybody knows me, you know that security is like my native tongue. I need security. I need to know that I'm safe. I have to have a ton of trust. I often run with a ton of fear. That's like my leading feeling. So security is really important before I take a big jump. Have you guys seen that picture of the goat that's like jumping from rock to rock and doesn't know what's under him? Like, that's what I felt like. I was like floating in the air. And I just...
Honey, we should just call you the goat.
And I just needed that little push and that permission. But before I had even Ryan saying this to me, this was a me and God thing. So I had this conversation with God saying, I'm very stubborn, one, and two, I'm very fearful. I need you to make it as clear as possible that this is what I'm supposed to do. And I'm supposed to quit my corporate job and go towards what I feel like I'm being drawn towards. And I had 3 very distinct experiences within 1 week after requesting those 3 signs. It was a conversation with a friend, another conversation, and then the final one, which I think Chance and Matthew will throw up on the screen. We were in the middle of doing a storyline group, and I read the exact same thing, which you'll see. I think I underlined it at the top. What costs you is the fear to try. That was the exact same sentence that 2 people prior had said that same week. And it probably doesn't mean anything to you. It meant everything to me. It was a spiritual experience. It made my tears well up. It gave me goosebumps. And it was the permission that I needed to move forward, and which I wrote then 10 years ago. I just looked at this again this morning for the first time. I was like, right, I know it's the power of 3s, but it's actually the waves of 3, which I wrote there 10 years ago.
Yeah. So you're always talking about, too, the thread, to find the thread in your life. What do you mean by that? If people are struggling to say, there's not a thread in my life, what do you mean by find a thread in your life?
I think that the 3s are so important to me, and they are like the thing that I have to move forward. But the thread is the thing that's actually laying the groundwork for the faith to actually move forward. So the easy answer would be, I've been in coffee for 25 years. That makes a lot of sense. But coffee truly has been a part of it, but it's a lot deeper than just coffee. So when I left corporate, I had an experience. Again, there's a tons of 3s that come along in my story, but 3 different companies that I had experienced within 3 years that gave me a lot of help, support, guidance in what I do today.
Yeah.
Nonprofit work. I worked with the company in Africa, did some retreats, and then also worked with, I'm going to just say, a Christian organization is the last one. That is where I landed before we started Free.
Yeah.
And even with all those 3 organizations, coffee came with me. I did coffee tastings. I have a deep love for coffee, but also the impact that coffee is making at its country of origin. So that has always been profoundly important to me. Yeah. So so I got let go of my 3rd organization that I was a director of, one of their pieces of what they were doing. And
do you want to say why you got let go?
They came to me and they were like, we would like to know, what is your take on homosexuality? And what is your take on gay marriage? And I said, I support it. And they said, then you're let go immediately, effective right now. So that was a hard brick wall.
Yeah.
And something that I thought like I was on this new path. There was I was so excited, and that was very difficult. And I can say for me, it's a very different feeling than if I was truly the person that was gay, and they were like, how do you feel about this? I can't understand or even begin to fathom what that would have made that person feel like. I'm the outsider, and I knew that small, tiny bit of what they made me feel like, where it was an immediate stop, hard stop, immediate, you're not part of the community. I didn't hear from anyone after that day, anyone. Very difficult. So then I think that is something that was built into Free, because that was, again, 3 months later that Ryan was like, what would it look like if we started something for addicts and something for loved ones of addicts? And then we're like, okay, there's still something missing. What is that 3rd category?
Yeah, because I think, and you all have experienced this, religion can do a really good job at kicking people out, keeping people out. And when you experience it enough and they're your friends, you say, wait a minute. How can we create space for them to belong? how can we welcome them? Because we'd been affected by this. We'd seen it happen to our friends, and now it happened to you as,
I didn't want anyone to even feel a sliver of what I felt that day. So I was like, I think we both came up with the term, however that looked that afternoon in our living room, whiteboarding. We call it like our Wi-Fi sign. It was like the addicts and then the loved ones of addicts. And then we coined the term spiritual refugee, because that's exactly what it felt like to me when I felt like they had kicked me out, closed the door, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And where's my community? Where are my people?
So how'd you find the thread to then, so we started Free, you started Wagon Coffee. What was the thread?
So then even when we started Free, which was 3 months after this Christian organization had let me go, coffee was still a part of what I did. And my part of bringing into Free what I knew, what I was a professional at, where I had a ton of knowledge that I was like, well, I could start roasting coffee out our back door and help the mission of Free with coffee sales. And that's where that started. That was 2018.
And y'all, it was a coffee roaster about this big. Did I say this last week? It would create smoke, and you could smell smoke throughout the entire neighborhood. The fire department came one day. That was fun. Okay, so tell us too, because I think this is really important. Who were some of those Elishas in your midst at this time in your journey who said go in peace?
So Free had been around then for 2 years, and Wagon was starting to become an idea because COVID came around, and I had a lot of women specifically coming to me into my tiny little 130 square foot room at our last location, hanging out in the blazing hot roastery. Say, what can I do? How can I help? If I go home, I'm going to drink. Could I take out the trash? Could I clean the bathroom? And I'm like, I think I have a solution for the problem. What if I created something for women specifically to hang out with me in this space where I can help give back in that way, in a bigger way? So then Wagon was born.
Yeah. And who were some of the voices?
I would not have started Wagon on my own, so thank God for my Elijahs. And there's been a lot of them. I can't even mention all of them. But the first 3 that were like my catalyst to jump were a mentor of ours when we were starting Free, and kind of was planting that idea. And when Wagon was an idea that was blossoming up, she said, go get an LLC today. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do next. And she said, you don't need to see the whole staircase, just the next step, and that's today, go get an LLC. So I did. And I had no clue what I was doing next. But what I know about the go in peace moments is, thankfully, luckily for me, I had surrounded myself with a ton of people that had my back. And somebody referenced me to a retired banker I had never met. And him and his wife came in and saw Free and saw, which it was back in the day called Free Coffee, which was very confusing. Yeah. But I shared my story with him, and he's like, your story is liquid gold. I want to help you. Come over and have tea with me and my wife. So I did. And he essentially helped me write my business plan.
Yeah.
And then my friend Brett, which Wes, you guys might know on the tech team.
Weston, yes.
Very, very good friends of ours. His dad and I had talked, very professional person in the business world, and he's like, could I help you write your performa? And just be prepared, because what you think it is and what it looks like, you will need to pivot. Be aware, because if you don't, you will fail. It will be different than you think it will, even in 6 months. So I had these people, again, dropping these wisdom bombs and helping me where I didn't even know what the future, what the next steps were. But they were my permission givers that helped me, I guess, squelch some of the fear and at least take the next step every single day.
Yes, and what I know about it, and even watching you in my own experience, is the go in peace moments, they don't erase the fear. So it's not like fear leaves and you just go on. But it gives you the blessing gives you the power to go on in the midst of the fear. So the fear is still there. You're just now willing to walk through it a little bit.
One tiny step at a time.
Yeah. Okay, what would you say to people who are, they're struggling. There is no peace for them. If you knew my story, you would know things are really complicated. I can't just go in peace. What do you say to that person?
I think in my experience, for me, it's been the power of the threes or the 3 waves of affirmation that may be true for you. If you look back and you reflect on where you're at today, where your story has led you, you might say the 3s don't make much sense for me. But then I would encourage you, what is it that has been, sorry for the coffee, percolating under the surface? What is it that's been there the whole time? Because I do think that there are threads and tapestries that is very easy, and speaking for myself, to sleepwalk through life. I did a really good job at that. And I think when I'm to the point where I can open my hands and be aware and open to where and how God is moving, and call upon the people that I know have my back, and also be aware of God's Spirit, some beautiful things happen.
Yeah. Can I tell you all one more beautiful thing about Tami? So she's, of course, the loved one. She has a real heart and passion for you. Just raise your hand if you identify as the loved one of an addict, alcoholic. Yeah, lots of you. For 2 years, she's been percolating on this idea of, she says, you know what, Ryan? All you addicts and alcoholics, you get these milestones and people clap for you, and us loved ones, we don't really get milestones, and people never really clap for us. And she says, what if we do a loved ones day? And she's brought it up for the last 2 years. So this year, in September 18th, is it? September 18th, I think, Saturday, September, we're having a loved ones day, and it's called Your Love is Enough. And we're going to celebrate the loved ones. We're going to have a panel up here. We got some great panelists, by the way. And this day is brought to you by, can I say, brought to you by Tami Canaday. Maybe not totally, but the idea is hers. And we said, yeah, it's the right time to do it. Man, we've even got our own merch coming for this. T-shirt. Can I not say that? Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. We don't have nothing for this event, all right? Just y'all's prayers is what we have. 19th, September 19th, so mark your calendar, Loved Ones Day. Your love is enough, and will you all give it up to Tami Canaday, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, honey.
Okay.
Yes, very good, very good. All right, y'all. Well, the way we close down here at Free on a Saturday night is with heartaches, which are kind of the opposite of celebrations. These are the burdens that you might be carrying, the hard things, and some of you have tried to walk this alone, carry these burdens alone, and then you saw, wait a minute, I really suck at doing this alone, and you find out you have people, you have community, you have a God who hears the cries of the people. So that's what this time is for. We take 3 minutes for this. By the way, if you're online, drop your heartaches in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. We'll join you there. Colin has a mic on this side. Teresa has a mic on this side. If you need some prayer, some encouragement, some lifting up, that's what this time is for. 3 minutes. This time is yours.
So I just really want to start by saying, first of all, that tonight has been a real big God shot for me. My husband and I both got laid off from our peer coaching job, which resulted in the loss of about a $3,000 a month income. So we've really been struggling. So we could really use some prayers in that, but we have a really strong faith and we know that God will come through for us. But hearing you speak tonight and just this whole tonight has really it's been really helpful. So thank you.
Glad you all are here.
Hi everyone, my name is Simone. Jerome, thank you for sharing about advocating for our pups. I advocated for 7 weeks for our rescue. And 16 days ago we had to say goodbye to him. He was 7 years old. And yesterday we had to say goodbye to my black lab, Millie. She was 14. She came to rehab with me. She was the sweetest, goodest girl, and I miss them both so much. So Jerome, please give that puppy, your 1-year-old, some extra love for me tonight.
Thank you for that, Simone. Prayers for you. Tender time.
name's Francis. Need some prayers for my little brother. He's in the grips of this disease.
All right, man. Prayers for Francis' brother. Lifting him up tonight.
My name is Paul, and I'm lifting up my friend Nate, who is in recovery in San Antonio right now.
All right. Prayers for Nate.
And Caitlin, I lost my entire church and choir community recently, and I'm really grateful to be here. But it's been very difficult. I don't really have anybody, so I'm really grateful I'm here.
Yeah, we're glad you're here too. And prayers for you on this journey.
My name is Emma. I'd like to pray for my cousin who is going to have a surgery on her kidneys. She did share with the doctors that she is the daughter of addicts and they still gave her opioids, so I'm also praying for the doctors in her surgery.
Thank you for that, lifting them up. Yeah.
So we also lost one of our clinicians in the office I work with to a fentanyl overdose. So I would like to pray for his family.
All right. Lifting them up. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Colin and Teresa. Teresa, do you want to join me up here to join our online community? Teresa, thank you. Yeah, Teresa. Come on up. I know you love it up here. Just like Carrie loves being up here. Just take a deep breath. Just imagine you're up in Salida on the river. And, let's just do it. Let's pray for our online people. You want the first one?
Yes.
Okay, you take the first one.
Evan says, I request prayers for recovery, burnout, and strength moving forward.
Yeah, Evan, prayers for you, man. Stay with it. Okay, they say, I need to find support. I think this is James. I need to find support. It's come to a point where it is the only option. I've been looking for SA and AA group. Thank you, Tami and Ryan. Thank you. Prayers for you, James, and reach out. Carrie can put in the comments some places to go for resources. I'm not exactly sure where you're from here. Not sure where you're from, where you're joining us from, but let us know, and we'll try to help you to the best way we can to point you in the right direction with some resources.
Christy says, prayers for my younger brother as he starts a new journey in his life. May God keep him protected and safe along his path.
Yeah. All right, Christy, prayers for him, lifting him up tonight. Glad y'all are joining us. Thank you, Teresa. You did a great job up here. So good. All right, y'all. Well, if you have been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, if you call this place home, your people, your community, whatever you call us here, you should know that we are funded by you, the people, and we're very grateful for it. It makes a big difference here. So, first, thank you. And if you want to donate to free, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can download the app. It's free to download. All of our messages, guest storytellers, all of our content is on there, meeting schedules, everything happening. And there's a giving button. And the same on the website, freerecoverycommunity.com. There's a giving button. You can give one time or set it up to be recurring. However you do it, we're grateful. Or for those of you in person, there's the giving kiosk outside each set of doors for things like cash and check. And there's the kind kiosk just outside these front doors to your right. It's the one tippy tap system if you'd like to give that way. And again, we're really grateful for it. It makes a big difference here. It helps us keep the mission moving forward and literally keeps lights on and doors open. So thank you very much. Shall we go out with a prayer? Yeah. I would invite you to just take a big deep breath and open the hands if you want. It's just a simple sign of openness. Yeah. And maybe as you open your hands, you can just hear that voice hovering over you. Go in peace. Go in peace. Go in peace. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have the answers. Just go in peace. The way knows the way. And if you don't know the serenity prayer, it's a beautiful one. and it's on your screen, and we'll pray it together. It goes like this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen, and grace and peace to you. See you next time.